Alright, we can now continue. So in this session we're now going to look at variations. So this question also always comes in mathematics paper 1, and under variation we're just going to look at direct variation, inverse variation, combined variation, and joint variation. I won't bore you with what those are. I'll just show you how to solve these questions. Okay, like I mentioned, this is a fast track, so I'll basically just explain how we're supposed to answer all questions on variation. So in variation you are going to see some reserved words, some special words. Whenever you see the word varies, whenever you see the word directly, whenever you see the word proportional, sometimes these two are combined. Okay, whenever you see these words, this is what they mean. So let's have an example. They say, given that A varies as B. What does that mean? Given that A is proportional to B, okay, or given that Y varies directly as X. What do those special words mean? So what you're going to do is, first of all, you're going to say, given that A, you write your A. Okay, then wherever you see varies, you're going to plug in an equal sign and you add a K. All right, once you add a K, and then you write whatever comes after varies, so meaning the B is going to be attached to the K there. Okay, given that A, you write your A, is proportional, write an equal sign, you add a K. Okay, proportional to, let's say, B. Okay, meaning your B comes there. Let me just respond to a student. They're trying to come. I think they're having trouble joining the class. Just a moment. Okay, they're not responding, so we can progress. We come to the last example. Given that Y, you write your Y, varies equals, you add a K, as X, the X comes there. Now we try to advance them a little. Let's introduce another special word, which is inversely. Okay, so now let's say they add something else. Given that A varies as B, and inversely as maybe the square of, okay, let's just bring it here, the square of C. Okay, then the other example we're going to have, given that Y varies directly as X and as X, and inversely as the square root of Z. So let us start with the first example. What does that one mean? So I'm going to say, given that what? A, you write your A. Varies, you add an equal sign, you add a K. As what? As B, you add a B there. Whenever you see the word inversely, you need to underline these values on the right, and then whatever value will come after the word inversely becomes your denominator. So this one says inversely as the square of C. The square of C simply means C squared. Okay, let me explain that one again for the last time. Given that A, you write your A. Varies, you write your equal sign, you add a K. Okay, let me just rewrite this, especially for those that have just joined us. Okay, given that A, you write your A. Varies, you add an equal sign, you add a K there. As what? As B, you add a B to the K. And inversely, we said whenever you see the word inversely, you underline the values on the right side of the equal sign as the square of C. I said that simply means C squared. This is going to be a formula for that particular question. We go to the last one. Given that Y, you write your Y. Varies directly, you write an equal sign, you add a K. As what? As X, you put an X there. And inversely, you underline as the square root of Z. Square root simply means now you need to plug in this guy like that. This is different from the square of C. Square means to the power 2. Square root, you need to plug in this guy. So that is the difference. Please don't mix them up. Okay, so that is basically that. Now let us look at some actual exam questions and figure out how we're supposed to answer them. So the first one is coming from 2024 paper 1 GCE, and it says that given that Y, let's just go through the question. Y varies directly as X and inversely as the square of Z, and that then here they'll give you these values. So before we get to the rest of the question, let us first of all come up with our formula. Given that what? Y, you write your Y. Varies equals, you add a K. Directly as X, you write an X. And inversely, underline, as the square of Z, meaning Z squared. That's our formula. Having found this formula, you are good to go. So make sure this formula is correct, because if it is wrong, you are going to get a 0 on this question. Your formula is very important. So this is how you form the formula you're going to use to solve this question. So at this point, every time in the question, they will give you some values which you are supposed to use only once. Okay? You are supposed to use the values they give you in the question only once. You notice here they're saying X is 8. Here they've changed X is 18. Okay? Then here again they're saying X is 25. Here they're saying Y is 4. Here they're asking you to find Y. Okay? So the values in the question are only used once. They are only used once to find what? The value of K. So you notice they're now saying and that X is equal to 8 when Y is 4 and Z is equal to 2. They're simply saying plug these into your formula to find the value of what? The value of K. Because usually the first question they'll ask you is to find the constant of variation, which is a K. It's called the constant of variation because it's the only value that doesn't change. As you solve for all these questions, you're going to be using the same value for K, but these others will keep changing. You've noted that here the X is saying, they're telling it as that it's 8. Here they're going to say it's 18. There they'll say it's 25. Y here is 2. Here they're asking us to find Y. Here they've given us Y. So these other variables keep changing, but K does not change. Okay, whatever value you are going to find as the value assigned to K will be the same value throughout the rest of the question. So how do you find the value of K? The first question here. You simply get your formula, write it down. Y is equal to Kx over Z squared. Okay. Then you go to your question. What is the value assigned to Y? The value assigned to Y is 4. So where there is Y, you put a 4. you say equals. You are trying to find k, so you write your k. Okay, the value assigned to what? X. What is the value assigned to x? It's 8, so you are going to put your 8 there. You said times 8 over, you have z squared down there. Okay, what is the value assigned to z in the question? It is 2. So this is z squared, so don't make a mistake of just saying 2. That would be wrong. So again, instead of saying 2 squared, I'll say 2 times 2. Okay, this method sometimes makes it easy for you to simplify. So I'll advise that you adopt this method. So again, when it comes to variation, don't multiply values anyhow unless you know what you are doing. Remember, in paper 1 you don't have the calculator. Sometimes they'll give you really big values. Okay, so if you are going to be multiplying values anyhow, you end up with big values that you fail to simplify. Okay, so I said unless you know what you're doing. So I know here when I said 2 times 2 will give me a 4, then I can say 8 divided by that 4, I can simplify, right? So I can go ahead and simplify. So when I'm going to say 4 is equal to k times 8, everything over 4, because 2 times 2 there gives me a 4. Then I can say 4 there 1, 4 there 2. Okay, meaning I'm remaining with 4 is equal to k times 2. Then I can divide both sides by 2 like that to find the actual value of k. Then I'll say 4 divided by 2 there will give me a 2 as the value of k, and you are done. Once you find the value of k, you can now go back to your formula, this one right there. Where there is k, you now plug in the value for k. So I'm going to say y is equal to 2x over z squared. This is now our formula which we are going to use for the rest of the question. What we've done is we just got the, where there is k, we found k as 2. Where there is k, we've put in our 2 there. Okay, so that is your constant of variation, and you are done. So now, another thing you should avoid doing is this. I've seen students who simplify questions like this, where they say 4 there 1, 4 there 1. That one is wrong. Okay, remember when there's an equal sign, you're supposed to cross multiply. So initially these values are supposed to multiply. So the examiner knew to say, okay, there are those types of students who do things this way. So let us put a k there and a k on the other side, so that we can tempt them to do what? To reduce. Then you will be there doing like that. Then you say k is equal to 1 over 8, which becomes wrong. Okay, so please take note of that precaution. All right, so we have found the value of k. Now we proceed to the rest of the questions. So the next question, what is it asking us to find? Let us check. So by the time we're getting to the third question, this would have sunk in. So the next question, they're saying find the value of y when x is equal to 18 and z is equal to 3. So first thing first, write your formula, the official one now, which is y is equal to 2x, everything over z squared. Now what values have they given us? They are saying find the value of y when x is 18. So we're trying to find the value of y. So where there is x, we're going to put 18, and then where there is z, they are saying it's 3. So we're going to say 3 times 3. So again, when I look at that question, I know to say 3 times 3 will give me a 9. The 9 can go into that 18, so I can go ahead and multiply. So I'm going to say 18 over 9, because 3 times 3 is 9. So meaning y is equal to 2 times 9 there is 1. 9 into 18, that is a 2. So 2 times 2. So meaning the value for y is just going to be a 4, and you are done. As simple as that. Okay, we proceed to the next one. Let's solve C from right here. They're asking us to find the values. Now here you need to pay attention to the wording. By wording I mean this one, not the wording for related to marriage. Okay, pay attention to the wording. Here they are saying find the value, but here they're saying find the values. Okay, take note there's an S at the end there. Come to the next question. Find the value. Find the value. Find the values. Pay attention. Okay. Find okay, this one. Find here again the value. The value, the values. telling you that they are not just looking for one value, they want two. Okay, so here they are saying find the values of z when x is 25 and y is equal to 2. So usually when they say find the values, the variable whose value you are trying to find is usually squared, and you know to square root to get rid of a squared number, you need to square root both sides. And I did mention in the previous session that whenever you square root a number, you're supposed to get two answers, a positive and a negative. For those that may have not attended that session, we said the square root of 4, for example, is what? A 2. Why is 2 the square root of 4? Because 2 times 2 gives us a what? A 4. But then negative 2 times negative 2 also gives us a what? Positive 4. Therefore, the square root of 4 is not just 2, but it is positive 2 or negative 2. So that is how come they're saying find the values. So whenever you just see this one, find the values, just know that I have to square root somewhere to find my final answer. Okay, now let us solve and see where we're going to square root. So let's actually solve C from down here. So I'm saying C is equal to find the values of what? Of z when x is 25 and y is 2. So first thing first, you capture your formula there, which is y is equal to 2x over z squared. We're trying to find the values of what? Z. So x and y have been assigned values. Y is 2. Where there is y, I'll put a 2, which is equal to 2 times x has been assigned the value of 25. So I'll say 25 over z squared. We're trying to find the value of z squared. So at that point, instead of multiplying there again, I'll leave the values the way they are. All I'll do is make z the subject. So I'll say over 1 and then cross multiply, meaning it's going to be 2z squared, because 2 times z squared is 2z squared. 1 times 2 times 25 is just 2 times 25. And then here I'll divide both sides by 2 so that here they can cancel, meaning z squared will be equal to, the 2's there can cancel again, so I'll just remain with 25. Okay, then now to get rid of this squared, I'll square root both sides so that that guy and that guy can cancel, meaning z is equal to plus or minus 5. The square root of 25 is positive 5, and also it can be negative 5. So you can now say therefore z is equal to positive 5 or negative 5. You notice for this question they'll put on the answer space, they'll say something like this. They'll say z is equal to dash or dash. Why? Because they're expecting two values, so you're going to put your positive there and your negative there as your final answers. Do you have any questions on the first question as we proceed to the next one? Have a question, please raise your hand or type in the chat. We proceed to the next example, which is saying z varies inversely as a square of x and directly as y. Okay, this one, let's do it first. I don't want to confuse people, it's a bit different. Let's go to this one for now, so that once everything sinks in, we can go back to the one that is a bit differently phrased. So we're saying a varies jointly as b. Okay, so a varies jointly as b and the square root of c, and then they give us those values to find the constant variation. So if a, you write your a, okay, varies, you write your equals and you add a k, jointly as what? B, you write your b, and the square root. Okay, this one is also a bit different, but anyway, this one we can do it. So now notice here that there's no inversely, so there's no need for you to underline, because there's no inversely in this question up to this point. Okay, they've just listed the variables a varies jointly as b and the square root of c. So joint variation basically is when you have two values that are linked to each other. For the previous examples I gave you, you had something like a is equal to k b over c, but in this case we're going to have something like a is equal to k b c. Okay, this is joint variation. No wonder you've not seen the word inversely. They are saying given that A varies, we write our equal sign, we add a K, okay, as what? As B, write your B, and the square root of C squared. So since they've not said inverse, you are going to write the square root of C squared right there in the same line as this variable. Okay, that is how your formula is going to be. So only when you see the word varies, that's when you underline. If you don't see any word called varies, you simply plug in the values in a line like we have done, one after the other. Okay, A varies, you write that, equals K as what? B. You write your B, and the square root of C. The square root of C is what we have there. So that is your formula for that one. Now we can start solving. Okay, so how do we find the value of K? Because that's the first question they're asking us. Find the value of K, the constant of variation. So we go back to the question. We check. First we write the formula. K B square root of C. We check what is, so this is the only time they will give you all the values for the variables you are dealing with. So A is given, B is given, C is given, because they want you to find K. So our A is 21. So while there is A, I'll put 21 is equal to K. We're trying to find K. Then I said times. Our B is 5. So I'll say 5 times the square root of what? 36. Because C is 36. So according to BODMAS, we need to start with what? With an order there. There is a root there. So what's the square root of 36? It is a 6. Okay. Once you find the square root of 36, you can now proceed to say 21 is equal to K. 5 times 6 there will give us a 30. Okay. Once we have a 30 there, we can divide both sides by what? By a 30. Even there by a 30. So that here the values can cancel. So meaning you're going to remain with 21 over 30 is equal to K. Now we can reduce this value. What number can we use? What's the biggest number we can reduce to reduce 30 and 21? We can start with a 3. So 3 into 21 goes there 7 times. 3 into 30 goes there 10 times. And this one we can't reduce it any further. Therefore, the value of K is equal to 7 over 10. Having found the value of K as 7 over 10, we can now revert back to our original formula which we found. While there is K, we plug in this fraction as the value of K. So meaning it's going to be A is equal to 7 over 10 B square root C. This is now going to be our formula for the rest of the question. So here the examiner switched up things for the students. This was in 2023. We usually get accustomed to patterns. So let it be known that in this exam you're going to be writing, you might find something that looks new. All the other question papers that you're going to look at, you'll find that the value of K is usually a whole number. It's not a fraction. But in 2023, for the grade 12s, the examiner decided to give them a fraction so that they can doubt their solutions. Is this really true? Because all the past exam papers from 2022, even the GCs in 2023, their K was a whole number. How come I'm finding a fraction? Okay, so provided you have done the right thing, you're not to say, okay, this then is the value for K. All right. So don't get too accustomed to the way questions are phrased. Sometimes the examiner will just change one word and then people get confused. So that is that. I'll give you an example. The time we're looking at in 2020, when you look at the question that came in that's linear programming, inequalities, usually we are used to having something like this. Okay, you have your x or y plane there, your y-axis, your x-axis, and then they've drawn your lines for you. Maybe it's like this, and then they've shaded like that. Okay, and then your R region is sitting there, and then they'll put the coordinates for you, maybe 2,4. Here they'll put 3, something. Even there they put maybe 4, maybe 5, something. Okay, so the past few years they've been doing this for students, and then the examiner decided to change. Okay, instead of putting the coordinates for them, I'll just name the points. This is, I'm going to call it A, this one I'll call it B, this one I'll call it C. And then in the question I'll put A is equal to 2, 2, like that. I even put it in brackets. B is equal to 3, 3. C is equal to 4, 5. Okay, that's badly looking 5. Then they ask you to find the inequalities. There are students who wrote this exam who are saying, I didn't know where to find the coordinates. Why? Because they are used to finding the coordinates right here on the graph. So what I'm trying to say is, don't get too accustomed to the way questions are phrased. The examiner just changed where to put the coordinates. They just put them in the question, and people were confused. The coordinates were there in the question. A is equal to that. You can now come and plug them in on your own. 2, 2 there. B is 3, 3. You go to where B is, you plug in 3, 3. As simple as that. So just like this question, the value of k, the constant of variation, is usually a whole number, but the examiner changed and made it a fraction. And I'm sure there are students who got mixed up and they avoided solving this question simply because they thought they were doing the wrong thing. So have that in mind as you are preparing for that exam. Some things may look new. The examiners may phrase certain questions differently, but the principle still remains the same. Okay, they just want you to continue thinking, because if all you are doing is what you already know, there's no thinking taking place, there's no learning taking place. All right, so now that we have found our official formula, which is this one, we can now finish solving. So they are now asking us to find the value of A when B is equal to 9 and C is equal to 100. So the first thing I said, you write down your formula, which is A is equal to 7 over 10 B, the square root of C. So they're asking us to find the value of what? The value of A. They've given us the value of B as 9. So we're going to say A is equal to 7 over 10 times 9. They're saying the value of B is 9 and the value of C is what? Is 100. So we're going to say times the square root of 100. Then we're going to say A is equal to 7 over 10 times 9 times what is the square root of 100? It is 10. You now see to say, that's 10 and that's 10 can cancel each other out. Okay, so if you are doubting now, you start seeing hope there. Perhaps what I'm doing is correct. Because like I said, the values are usually strategically placed. So now what is 7 times 9? So 7 times 9 should be 72, but let me confirm. How can I confirm that? I'm going to say, so for me to confirm, I need to know what 7 times 7 is first. So I'll say 7 times 7 is what? That's 49. I put another 7 there, I put a times. So now, what do I need to add to 7 to make it a 9? I need to add a 2. That's the number I put there. What is 7 times 2? It is 14. Then I simply add these two. Okay, 9 plus 4 is 15. Is it? Then 9 plus 4 is 13. Should be 63. 9 plus 4 is 13, remainder 1. 4 plus 1 is 5 plus that one, 63. So I've confirmed to say 7 times 9 is actually 63. I was thinking of 8 times 9. So do things the way they work out for you. For me, this works out for me. If I want to figure out, okay, what is, for example, 8 times, maybe 8 times 7. No, not 7. Let me try a different number. 8 times 6. What is 8 times 6? So I need to know what 6 times 6 is. So I'll say 6 times 6 is what? 36. Then I'll put again 6 times. Then I'll need to figure out what number to put there. So I'll ask myself, what do I need to add to 6 to make it 8? I need to add a 2. So that's a 2 I'll put there. Okay. Then I'll say equals. 6 times 2 there gives me a 12. Then I'll add these values. 6 plus 2 is 8. 1 plus 3 is 4. So I know to say 6 times 8 is what? 48. So that is that. And we are done. So our value of A for that question is 63. We now come to the next one. Find the value of C when A is equal to 70 and b is equal to 25. So first things first, write down the original formula, which is a is equal to 7 over 10 times b times the square root of what? Of c. So they're asking us to find the value of c, okay, when a is 70. So a, we're going to put a 70 where there's a, then we say times 7, not times but equals 7 over 10, then we say times b. What is the value for b? They are saying b is 25, so I'm going to put 25 there, and then we say times the square root of c. Okay, so for this one, what are we going to do? We're going to, instead of multiplying these values, you can see you have 7 times 25. That will give you a big value. So remember what I said, only multiply when you know what you're doing. So instead of multiplying, I'll simply move all these values to the left so that I can just remain with what I'm trying to find here on the left, the square root of c. So I'll say over 1, and then I cross multiply. So I mean it's going to be 70 times 10. Instead of 70 times 10 giving me 700, I'll just say 70 times 10. Express it that way, then I'll say 7 times 25. Okay, times the square root of c. Let me just move it to the right. Okay, times the square root of c. Then I'll need to move these values to the left, so I'll divide both sides by 7 times 25. 7 times 25, even this side by 7 times 25, so that that 7 and that 7 cancel on the right, and that 25 and that 25 cancels. I'll just remain with the square root of what? C. Then over here I can reduce some values. I can say 7 there is a 1, 7 into 70 is a 10. So I'm remaining with a 10 times 10 over 25. Okay, then I'm going to say I can say 5 there. I can actually, I know to say 25. Okay, let me just simplify, do it the simplest way. I'll say 5 there is a 5. Okay, 5 there, that's a 2. What do I remain with? I'm remaining with 10 times 2 over 5 is equal to the square root of c. Then I can say 5 there, 1, 5 there, that's a 2. Okay, so I'm remaining with 2 times 2 is equal to the square root of what? Of c. 2 times 2 there will give me a 4. Okay, square root of c. So now, how do I get rid of this square root? Let me give you an example. When you have x squared is equal to 4, what do you do to get rid of the squared value there? You square root both sides, right? Let me write it properly. You square root both sides. So similarly, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get rid of this square. When you're trying to get rid of the power 2, you introduce a root. So even when you're trying to get rid of that root, you need to introduce what? What are we supposed to introduce? Okay, so all you have to do here now is you introduce a 2 there and a 2 there, so that this one and that one can cancel. You're basically doing the opposite of what you do. Okay, then you're going to ask yourself, what is 4 squared? 4 squared is just 16, and you are done. As simple as that. We now go to the next question. Let's see what the next question has in store for us. So this one says, let me see how well we are doing with time. Okay, y varies directly as x and inversely as the square of z. Okay, we can still do this one. This one is simple, and by the time we're getting to the tougher ones, people are really good to go. So let us do this other simple one. Don't worry, this one is much simpler than the one I'm doing. Okay, so this one says, given that y varies, so you write y varies, you put an equal sign and you add a k. The word varies is what means that. For those that joined late, given that y, you write your y. Whenever you see the word varies, you put an equal sign and you add a k. Okay, directly as what? X, you put your x there. whenever you see the word inversely, you underline the values on the right, and then whatever comes after inversely has to become your denominator. Inversely as the square of z. So square of z means squared. Okay, z squared, like that. So this is your formula now. So now the first question they're asking us to find is find the value of k. To find the value of k, we use the values that are given in the question, because they'll give you the values for y, x, and z in the question. So meaning we're going to say a is equal to, first things first, you write the formula you have come up with. Y is equal to kx over z squared. So they're saying that y is 8. So where there's y, I put 8. When x is equal to 4. So where there's x, I'll put a 4. And then z is equal to 1. So I'll simply say 1 times 1, or 1 squared if you like. So meaning I'm just going to have k times 4. 1 times 1 is 1, 4 times 1 is 4. Then there I'll divide both sides by 4, so that the 4's can cancel there. I just remain with a what? With a k. So 8 divided by 4 gives me a 2. Therefore the value of k is equal to 2. I now go back to my formula. Where there is k, I put a 2. So y is equal to 2x over z squared. This is now my official formula for this particular question. And you are done. Okay. We now proceed to B. So B says find the value of y when x is 9 and z is 3. So I'm now going to say y is equal to x. First I write the formula. That is going to be, so now we don't use this formula, we use the one where k is given the value 2. So y is equal to 2x over z squared. So now they're asking us to find the value of what? Y. So I'll say y is equal to 2 times, what is x? X is 9. So I'll say 9 over, what is z? Z is 3. So I'll put 3 squared, because it is z squared. Don't just put 3 there, you'll get it wrong. So remember I said only multiply when you know what you are doing. I know to say 3 squared is equal to 9. So I'll then say 2 times 9 is equal to 9. So y will be equal to, there those values can cancel, you just remain with a 2. That is your value of y, and you are done. We go to the last example, which is saying values again. Okay, what did I say? Whenever you see the word values, simply means you're going to square root some value somewhere. And you remember, whenever you square root a number, you're supposed to get 2 answers. So let us go ahead and check out this values question. So the first thing you do is you write your formula. Y is equal to 2x over z squared. What are they asking us to find? Values of z. You now notice to say the z here is actually a squared term. So you know to say to get rid of that square, I need to square root some values. When y is equal to 3, so y is equal to 3 is equal to 2 times x is equal to 54. So I'll say 54 there over z squared. So now at that point I want to multiply 2 times 54, because that will give me a big value. I want to do things the simplest way I can do them. So I'll simply say over 1, cross multiply, and then I'll say 3z squared. 3 times z is 3z squared, which is equal to 2 times 54. I'm not multiplying there. I said multiply only when you know what you're doing. Then I'll divide both sides by 3, so that these guys can cancel. I remain with z squared on the right. And then here I'm going to have 2 times 54 over 3. Then I need to check, can 3 go into 54? Let me test. So I like using the old-fashioned method. Okay, 3, and then you have 54 there. 3 into 5 goes there 1 time, remainder 2. 3 into 24 goes there 8 times. Okay, so I know to say 3 goes into 54 8 times. So I'll say 3 there 1, 3 there, that's 18. So meaning we're going to have 2 times 18. What is 2 times 18? 2 times 18 is 36. Okay, 2 times 8 there is 16, remainder 1. 2 times 1 is 2 plus that 1, 3. So that is our 36 there. So now to get rid of this guy, I will need to square root both sides. And now you see to say, on the right I have a perfect square. vyenda vipanga sense as you are solving. Okay, you square root both sides there, those values will cancel, meaning z is going to be plus or minus what? 6, which you can just say as 6 or negative 6, and you are done. Could there be any questions as we are winding up on this topic? Okay, we now go back to, we'll go back to that question after we're done with this one. So now we have a bit of strange looking questions. So all of a sudden you are seeing cubic function in variation. They've given you a table of values, okay, and they are saying it is given that y varies inversely as a square, y varies inversely as a square of x. The table below shows some values of x and corresponding values of y. What does this mean? So all they have done, instead of giving you the values in the questions here, as they give you, say find the value of a when b is what, when shan is what, they've now put up a table of values for you. You are supposed to now get the values from here. So remember what I was saying again, the examiner just changes something and people are confused. Okay, so they've just put the values here. You are supposed to get them from there. That's all. So let's come up with a formula. Given that y, you write your y. Okay, varies, you write equals k. Inversely, so whenever there is no value given between varies and inversely, you simply go ahead and underline. Okay, as a square of what? X, meaning x squared. Given that a varies inversely as c. Okay, given that a, you write your a, varies equals, you add a k. There's no value between these two guys, so just go ahead and plug in the underline there for inversely as what? As c, just like that. So that is what we have done up there. Okay, let me just redo this. I want people to understand everything. Okay, let me just scroll up a little. Given that y, you write your y, varies, you plug an equal sign, you add a k. Inversely, underline as the square of x, x squared. That's your formula. Find the value of what? K, the constant of variation. So remember, to find the value of k, you need to know all the values of the variables we have in the question. So here we just have two variables, y and x. So meaning we need to use a column that gives us both the values of y and x. So these values in this column belong to what? To x. These ones in this row, by the way, this is a row, belong to what? Y. So what this simply means is that x is 2 when y is 9. Okay, when y is 4, x is what? B. So it's the same as here, for example, where they're asking us to find the value of a. It's the same as they say find the value of a when what? X. This value up here corresponding to a when x is equal to what? 6. It's the same thing. Find the values of b when what? Where is b? B is sitting right there. When y, corresponding to that value, when y is equal to what? 4. That is all that means. That is all what that information in the table means. Find the value of k when x is equal to 2 and y is equal to what? 4. Remember the format in the previous questions. Whenever they're asking us to find the value of k, they'll give us all the values for the variables we have in our formula. So that is why you're going to use a column that has the corresponding values of x and y given to find the value of k. So meaning we're just going to use these values once. So meaning we're going to say where there is y, we're going to put the value corresponding to y, and where there is x, we put the value corresponding to x. So where there is y, we said we're using this column. since both values are known. Here this one is known, this one is not known. This one is known, this one is not known. So you can't use these two columns. You can only use these ones because the value for x and y are both known, the values. So y is 9 here. So where there's y, I'll put a 9. And then I say equals k over, what is x? X is 2 squared. So it's going to be 2 squared. So it's going to be 9 is equal to k over 2 squared is 4. 4 times 9, that gives you 36. You can say over 1 and then cross multiply. So meaning the value for k is 36. We now go back to our formula. Where there's k, we put 36 and then we say x squared. That is now our official formula. Once you've done that, you are good to go. So now here we go to the table. We're asked to find the value of what? The value of a. Find the value of a. So check, where is the value a? It's sitting in this column. Okay, what is a representing? It's representing y. Meaning, while there is y, you can put a if you want. While there is y, you put a. Let me write down the formula again. Okay, this is the, oh, it's not the last question, so I can still reserve it up there. So I'm going to say b is equal to y is equal to 36 over x squared. Okay, so a is representing what? Y. So if you want, you can put a while there is y. And then what is this value representing? It's representing x. So where there is x, I'll put 6. So that is 36 over 6 times 6, or 6 squared if you like. You now notice to say 6 squared or 6 times 6 is equal to 36. So meaning 36 over 36, what you're going to have there, meaning the value of a is just what? 1. And you are done. As simple as that. For the values, let's do it from here. Find the values again. Values. Okay, write your formula. Y is equal to 36 over x squared. Find the values of b. You check. Which column is b sitting? It's sitting in this column. What is b representing? It's representing what? X. It's an x coordinate. So we're going to say where there is x, we're going to put a b, and where there is y, we're going to put a 4. So where there is y, we put a 4 is equal to 36 over, you can even say b squared if you like, or you can say x squared. Okay, I already used a that side, so let me use x there, then I show you how to finish. Okay, so at this point we cross multiply, so meaning it's going to be 4 x squared is equal to 36. All right, then when you scroll down, you're going to divide both sides by 4. By 4, the 4's will cancel there, remaining with x squared is equal to 36 divided by 4 is 9. Remember, we did multiply 3 times 4 somewhere just within this question. Okay, now we need to get rid of that too, so we square root both sides so that that guy and that guy can cancel, meaning x is equal to positive 3 or negative 3. And you are done. As simple as that. We now proceed to the final question for this topic. Do we have any question as we are concluding this topic? This one. So it says, let me take it up a little. This one came in 2023 paper 1, was written by the GCE candidates in 2023. So here they're saying, given that z varies inversely, okay, the examiner just switched up things here. Given that z, okay, varies inversely as the square of x and directly as y. Remember at the end, at the beginning there, I said there is what is called joint variation, where you have two values linked together, right? So simply interpret this information the way it is appearing. Given that z, you write your z, varies, you say equals, you add a k. I said when you see inversely and there is no value between those two special words, you simply underline, okay, as the square of what? X. You put your x there, and then it's saying directly as y. So that is where the joint variation comes up. So this y is actually supposed to come up here. It's the same as what we had there. A is equal to b k b square root of c. That was also joint variation, where you have two values linked together. So just because the directly was mentioned last doesn't mean it needs to come and sit there. No, it needs to come up here. This is the same as z varies as y and inversely as x. Z, you write your z, varies equal sign as what? Y. Put your y there. And inversely as what? X. So the examiner here just tried to confuse people by switching them around. Okay, mentioning what I was saying about patterns. You become so accustomed to patterns that you don't want change. So here the examiner just switched things around. We're used to seeing inversely at the end. Then they just decided, okay, let's bring it at the front. We see how people are going to figure it out. So this is our formula here. We can now go ahead and find the value k, the constant of variation. So I'm going to say A is equal to z k y over x. So z is given as 6. So where there is z, I'll put 6 is equal to k times y is given as 27. So I have 27 there over, it's a square of x, so it's x squared here. So meaning here we're going to have a squared value there, and then x squared, that gives us negative 3. Okay, negative 3 squared. So now what does this mean? This means negative 3 times negative 3 like that, meaning it's going to be 6 is equal to k times 27, everything over, what is negative 3 times negative 3? Positive 9. Okay, meaning 6 is going to be equal to 9 there 1, 9 there 3. So we're going to say k times positive 3, divide both sides by 3, there they will cancel, meaning k is equal to 2, because 6 divided by 3 is a 2, and you are done. You found the value of k. You now go back to your formula. Where there is k, put the value you have found for k. So here where there is k, I'll put a 2, and that will be my official formula for the rest of the question. Excuse me. Okay, seems when I speak for a long time my voice starts tripping. All right, so that is that. We now proceed to the other questions. Okay, so let us create some space. So we're asked to find the value of z when y is equal to negative 6 and x is equal to negative 2. All right, so meaning that's going to be z, that is b, z is equal to 2y over x squared. So I'm trying to find the value of z. So I say z is equal to 2 times, what is y? Y is given as negative 6. So I'm going to say, we can actually put it in brackets like this, negative 6 over x is negative 2. So I'm going to say negative 2 squared. So z will be equal to 2 times negative 6, that is negative 12, over negative 2 times that, it gives us positive 4, meaning z will be equal to negative 3 as our final answer, and we are done. And then finally we are asked to find the values. Okay, again it has come, values of x when y is 8 and z is that one there. So First thing, write your formula, which you already have there. We're asked to find the values of x. So y is given as what? 8, and z as 1. So we're going to say 1 is equal to 2 times 8 over, wait a minute, where is the k? Okay, yeah, there it is. 2 times 8 over z over what? X squared. Okay, then we're going to, there we can multiply. We're going to have that there, x squared, 1 times x is x squared, 1 times x squared is x squared, and then 2 times 8 we can put a 16 there, and then we square root both sides. So there they'll cancel. X will be equal to, what's the square root of 16? Positive 4 or negative 4. Don't forget, whenever you square root a number, you need to put two values, a positive and a negative. Okay, this, ladies and gentlemen, has brought us to the end of variation. We are now remaining with one more topic to call it a night, and that is quadratic function graphs. Do we have any questions on variations? This is everything you need to know to be ready for the exam. Do we have any questions? Is it clear? If it is clear, please let me know with your positive responses. Okay, have people understood? Have people revised? Those that already knew these topics. Okay, great. All right, so we are going, the time is exactly 22:07 on my phone. We are going to go for another break, which is just going to be 10 minutes. So this is 22:08. I'll start teaching at exactly 22:18. We're now remaining with one topic, which is quadratic function graphs. So please don't go for more than that time, because usually the introduction is at the beginning. So if you delay to come back, you find me introducing the topic and you might miss some important pieces of information. So please be back by 22:18.